In our last video, the day after Christmas 2018, we left Marco Island, Florida and stopped in Dry Tortugas for a day. Then we continued our 643-mile voyage, planning to round the west edge of Cuba and sail straight to Cayman. As you will see, that plan changed, but more importantly, our adventures included a Goliath grouper, a blue Marlin catch, and a dolphin school, along with sporty seas, New Year's Eve, my birthday, and more.
Good morning. It is Friday morning. We just left Dry Tortugas and are on our way to Cabo, San Antonio, Cuba. Although we're not planning on pulling into Cuba, we are going to stay 12 miles offshore in order to stay out of the Cuban waters. But that's our route. We are headed to Grand Cayman. And we just had a wonderful stay at Dry Tortugas. Highly recommend anybody visit that if they can get over there. It is not very busy, plenty of spots for anchoring, and you can spend a day on the island and still have plenty left to do.
So we're making about 7.5 knots or so, and we are going to hit the Gulf Stream here in about 30 miles. 18 knots or so of wind, probably an easy 5 to 7 foot of seas right now, and probably be that way most of the day, especially when we get into the Gulf Stream. Young Kelsey is at the helm for now, and her dad Bill is looking for something to eat.
With your first cell phone.
Good afternoon. We're presently sailing. Total trip is from Marco Island to Dry Tortugas, around Cuba, and to Grand Cayman. The wind conditions have actually been in our favor for the first 2 legs of the trip. The first leg was Marco to Dry Tortugas. Had an excellent overnight sail there, about 16 hours, and then a great stop in Dry Tortugas. Today we're sailing from Dry Tortugas to the west tip of Cuba, and we have a really nice, almost beam reach wind today. It's running at 18 to 20 knots, and that will put us about 33 hours to the west end of Cuba. Unfortunately, the winds are also coming out of the southeast, east-southeast, from the tip of Cuba to Grand Cayman, which will be directly in our face. So we can't sail directly from the tip of Cuba to Grand Cayman, and so instead we're going to go into the wind a little bit, stay in the lee of Cuba. That should reduce those winds in our face, allow us to do some nice motor sailing, get ourselves to a position where we are due north of Grand Cayman, and then we can turn south. We'll have a nice easterly wind, another beam reach going south into Grand Cayman. So that's the plan so far. That's the route we picked on the Rain Marine machine as well, and we'll see how everything pans out.
Holy cow! Daddy fought a marlin on a sailboat.
Hang on.
I've got a video of it right now. Holy cow!
Alright, that's a release. Yeah!
Woo!
Catch. That's an official catch. Check it out. Check him out.
Wow, look at that fish.
Oh, I don't want this in my chest. Alright, yep. Hi, buddy. Where?
Is he gone? Or is he dead?
There you go.
Day 4, dolphins. Still day 4. We crossed the Gulf Stream at 24 degrees latitude, nice and slow at 4.5 knots, so we flew our Jolly Roger Parasail. The winds picked up all of a sudden in early evening, pushing us around the tip of western Cuba at 8 knots. We then continued past Fat Maria, encountering 25-knot headwinds, strong heading currents, and 12-foot sea swells with 6 to 10-foot waves.
Okay, we are on the south side of Cuba, which we knew coming on this side we were going to approach winds in our face. However, we expected them to be at about 10 knots. Unfortunately, they're at 20 knots and more, and we're seeing an enormous amount of current as well. So when we tried to head to a particular waypoint on this side of it, we weren't making any headway whatsoever because of those two factors: heavy seas, heavy wind, and current against us. So we decided to tack back towards land. We are trying to get into the lee of land a little bit. It doesn't look like we'll be able to do that until probably tomorrow. So unfortunately, we're pounding against the seas today. We're going to continue to do this for probably the next 12 to 15 hours. So that's what you have today.
Since we were making only 2 knots with engines, we decided to head towards shore to get in the lee of land. Even there, we saw 12-foot waves crashing on the cliffs. With no other options, we pressed on and finally found a spot in the bay to anchor for the evening and take a break.
All right, here we are on the PILAR. We are day 5 in our journey and interviewing Bill Roper. Bill was our
Fishing buddy.
Bill is Stephen's fishing buddy and has joined us on this trip with his daughter Kelsey. And they've been a great help so far. We've had some good parts of the trip and we've had some tough days. So Bill, what's been your favorite part of the trip so far?
Probably our stop in the Dry Tortugas. And later, after we left there, we caught a blue marlin. And that was unbelievably exciting. challenge on a catamaran, but we got it in and released the fish.
Yeah, that was amazing. Kelsey, what's been your favorite part of the trip?
I really like the Dry Tortugas too. And yesterday there were a bunch of dolphins jumping along the boat, which was really cool. We saw a bunch of different types, so that was fun. I really liked watching them.
Yeah. Okay, now for the bad. What's been the worst part?
Also yesterday there was a lot of bad weather, which was not as much fun. Just because, I mean, not bad weather, just a lot of waves, which is not as much fun as like the Dry Tortugas stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me too. That was tough.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of the cooking so far?
I genuinely eat better here than I do at school, so it's been really good.
Okay, Phil, what's the worst part of the trip so far for you?
You know, really the only bad thing is the unfavorable winds and the seas at times, but you know, some of that was expected, and it just happens, and you have to deal with it. But I think we're still going to get to our destination in time, and so it really hasn't been that bad. A couple of rough nights of sleep, but we've made up for it when we've been able to anchor, and it's been really nice. And the food's been great. Dawn is a great cook, and I know it is really hard to prepare food when you're underway and in rough seas, and she's done great. We've eaten well. We're not wanting for anything. Weather's been beautiful, other than some strong winds blowing directly at it.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yep, and you guys had a really positive attitude through it all, so we really appreciate that, because it's hard for us too. Even though we've been on here a few more times, it's still hard, and it's great to have people with positive attitudes. Woohoo!
Right.
Reporting in with Captain Stephen Bell of the PILAR. What do we got today, Stephen?
We are presently heading upwind, bashing our way into the seas and into the wind to get to the point where we can turn and head south to Cayman with a good beam reach. We're in the Golfo de Catamaran. It's a really nice big bay in here. We came in here to hide from the 12-footers that were offshore of us where we couldn't make any headway, and we are presently making good headway up to the point where we can make the turn. So hopefully the day stays the same. We'll get as far as we can, probably anchor for the night again, and tomorrow we will hopefully make the exit and head south.
Great. Thank you, Captain. Great to have you planning this trip and doing all you do, trimming those sails. It's our water today, not too bad. Yesterday we had 12-foot rollers and really bad waves, in addition to wind in the wrong direction, in addition to current coming at us. And so, God, we barely made 2 knots. So we got to different water as soon as we possibly could, and we're able to finally anchor for the night and rest up for today's trip, which is going much better.
Our New Year's Eve agenda consisted of Mexican cuisine for dinner, as well as sunset sailing by the mountainous Isle of Youth, champagne, of course, way before midnight, and a late night anchorage in what we affectionately named Mangrove Pass.
Happy New Year from Cuba.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
We probably won't make it to midnight, though.
Forgot.
Always
Yay.
Awesome. All right. We are
That just went in the water.
having champagne on our boat. We are at our last stop before we
Put on
get to our final destination of Grand Cayman. So we are enjoying champagne. We had a great sail today. Beautiful green water. Nice manageable waves, even with 25 knot winds, and we are happy.
And well rested.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
God bless us, everyone. Our next challenge was navigating through what we called Mangrove Cut, Mangrove Pass. It was the skinniest and shallowest channel we have had yet. Actually turned up a little sand and grass at one point, then took a different path in, and Stephen and Bill were able to get us through. And on the other side was gorgeous turquoise green water that we were able to sail through. And we even had a resident bird accompany us. He followed us through miles of these waters, so we enjoyed his company very much.
This is just a message in a bottle, not an alcohol thing.
Message in a bottle. Everybody has written a little something on a January 2019 calendar and inside a Ziploc bag going inside of our Tennessee whiskey bottle. I'm going to go the other way to finish.
This is our Happy New Year bottle we're going to throw over the bow.
Seal it up with Teflon tape.
Two wraps.
Sure. We may want to duct tape it on the outside, and then there we have it. A message in a bottle.
And this will float to who knows where, but we hope somebody gets it and reads it and has a very Happy New Year. Finally sailing south to Cayman, we had beam reach, we had east-southeast 20-knot winds, and we got to finally turn off the motor. This is exactly what we had signed up for. We are approaching Cayman Islands now. Finally, after 8 days
on the water.
Was it 8 days?
8 days. It was 8 days, Cap.
We left on Wednesday.
And-
Wednesday.
Yeah, it was 8 days. Yeah, that's a long time.
As we catch our first views of the Cayman shore, we are all truly happy to have arrived. After hours check-in was available for an extra fee, which was a pretty easy process. Stephen and I have been to Cayman several times, so some of this was pretty familiar to us already. The cruise ships that we saw in the harbor, the interesting boats. We were escorted over to an anchorage spot for the evening by a harbor pilot. Then we all took showers without the boat rocking and headed out to a 4-course dinner at the nearby Lobster Pot, which was fantastic and we highly recommend it for anyone. The Lobster Pot has a tarpon feeding event, I think about every half hour at their dock area, so don't miss that if you go.
Hi everyone, just doing a little snorkeling on my birthday. It's my birthday, it's my birthday. Okay, here goes into the sea green waters at Cayman Island. Woo! It's chilly. It's chilly.
After our snorkel, we headed into the channel in West Bay towards our dock, which was at the Cayman Island Yacht Club. And it was pretty easy entry, great marina, very beautiful, a lot of homes around the marina, and we settled into our dock. We also were able to meet a lot of the locals. A lot of the charter boats go out of here, both fishing and day sail. And we also got the opportunity to see Guy Harvey's research boat go out. We actually got to meet him, exchanged boat admirations, and Bill got a t-shirt signed. We finally flew our Marlin flag. We had never flown it yet since that catch, so we put that up. And we went out for dinner for my birthday. The next day we spent preparing the boat for a month without us as we left for home.